All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 1 in this best of 5 in between Kyo All Fallen with Demon Sheep, Sorakuma, and Siam Jik versus Say My Name, Octiu, and Kyo. A little bit confusing of a name for Noob, that is actually Noob on his second account, but they will be representing VCL. On the left side, we have Kyo as the teal English. In the pocket, you're going to have Octiu as the French in green, and down south, you are going to have Say My Name playing as the Mongols in purple. Other side, you're going to have Siamjik playing as the Rus in red. The pocket will be Demon Sheep playing as the blue French. And up north, you're going to have Sorakuma playing as the yellow Abbasids.
Well, first up, everybody seems to be in a pretty good position here. Nobody really pushed out too far, or they're not in a kind of odd spawn position where they could be easily targeted or isolated by a couple of their opponents, 2v1 or whatever. So far, so good on that generation. But what are we looking for, Lita, here in the early game? There has to be something that sets these players apart because this is not mirror matchups like we saw yesterday.
So the first thing that you're going to be looking at is what Say My Name's team will be doing with the Mongols, because that's one of the big differences between the two teams. You have no Mongols on the side of Demon Sheep's team, so you really need to leverage the power of those Mongols here for Say My Name, because if you don't, then suddenly your opponent will have a pretty decent chance at winning this game, and then after that, they will have Mongols available for the next map. So the first question mark, I do believe, is what we're going to see from the Mongols, and the answer is that we're seeing Spearmen coming out. The Spearmen, I think they will just support the Tower Rush. The biggest question is who they are going to Tower Rush, because at this point, Say My Name is up against Siamjik, and Tower rushing the Rus players is never an easy task to do. It's possible, but sometimes just see players targeting the French player in the pocket with the Mongols, simply because cutting off that gold income is a lot easier than doing a lot of damage to the Rus player.
Yeah, being able to outmaneuver your opponent is great. Usually, we saw it with French yesterday, like you're mentioning, where it takes a while for them to get the knights really kicking in, and even then, it's expensive. You can easily cut off their resources from them. So that school of cavalry won't actually be able to produce much, just because usually their gold is cut off. They can't really do anything about it. But Rus have a mobility advantage. They can keep maneuvering around their opponent, and then Mongols kind of choke out in their attack by investing too many resources into outposts. Abbasids are too far away to do anything against them. So I'm not sure if that early aggression would be able to achieve much. But hey, maybe this is more security here for Sorkuma, Demon Sheep, and Samjik to think, you know what, we don't have to worry about too much early on.
While the Spearmen are coming in, and that gold mine is more than exposed for Demon Sheep, so considering that there is no defensive tower out there, it very much seems like Demon Sheep wasn't expecting the Spearmen to come in, and that's going to come as a nasty surprise, because now he's gonna be pushed away from his gold mine. You see, Say My Name isn't even targeting the villagers, he's just going for the mining camp itself.
Yeah, I can't believe that they got so far up. I'm not sure if any reinforcements can be pulled in to help here, but yes, this is what you want to do. Burn out that mining cap. Make sure you're getting that extra boost of food and gold early on. You can't really reach those spearmen because of how far away they are, and that scout can't do much. There's two spearmen. There's a Khan with him, and they're going to be able to push the French scout away fairly effectively. School of Cavalry is going to come up, and there has been quite a bit of gold, at least 147 collected here. So we'll see if something will be built up in the meantime as feudals finally hit here by a French player. Demon Sheep, the first one to do so, but yeah, downside, mining camp's going to burn and probably fall. So success for the Mongols, despite the spawning positions.
Exactly. That is a massive success out there, because right now Demon Sheep doesn't have access to gold. So you see he can pop out one knight, but that's going to be it. And that's why targeting the French player is so good. Cutting off that gold income is very easy, you're unlikely to encounter any resistance in Dark Age. And then, if you just cut off that gold income, it's going to be very difficult to make knights for the French player. Even if he gets one or two knights out, or Spearmen should be able to take a good fight against it.
Definitely so. So this is kind of the early game, and here you're always expecting a bit of aggression from the Mongols. This plays just into the civilization itself. Otherwise, Abyssids are kind of just chilling, which is usually what happens here. Double Archer ranges are coming out for our yellow Abyssid Surakuma, and I just love when I mouse over an Abyssid player and I can actually understand what villagers are saying. It's kind of unnatural for me as hearing this in video games, not gonna lie. Kyo, in the meantime, chilling himself, not really much happening outside of a few longbows being produced here, so might be able to harass the Abyssids in just a bit. That's why you saw those double archer ranges coming out as a response, or at least in preparation. And the Roost continues on with the hunt. Semjik is on 435 bounty so far. Not too bad.
Indeed, that's a pretty good bounty for him. Just found a wolf for himself. He's the only Roost player going for a hunt, so obviously you would expect at least 500 from him to be collected, and that start seemed to be pretty good for him. You will have a blacksmith now coming in for Say My Name. That's quite unconventional to see that early, with only a handful of spearmen around. Makes me wonder if we're actually going to see a full commitment to hardened spearmen, and maybe even a ram push. That would be crazy. But if you think about it, given the fact that Demon Sheep doesn't have a lot of army on the battlefield, although he now has access to the gold up north, I can see that being a thing, trying to just go for a super aggressive opening here for Say My Name. Knights are trading off on the left side as we see Camel Archers being used here for Sorakuma. The biggest challenge with the Camel Archers, of course, will be the fact that they are extremely expensive at the beginning, so getting a large number out of that is going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, critical masses are something that we talked about over the few games that we had yesterday. But in the meantime, Say My Name is actually keeping up the pressure, this time against the Rus. One thing that's cool to see, and something we talked about also yesterday, Siamjik was able to ferry off quite a few deer to his teammate at Demon Sheep, just making sure that the French are able to keep up the production, despite the fact that they're being harassed by their Mongol opponent, those few hardened spearmen and the Khan that is up next to them. And actually, more deer will be ferried now down to Siamjik's base himself. He builds up his defenses, houses around, so he can use that SimCity that he's got around his TC to make sure that any raids that would happen with those spearmen can't actually achieve too much, with really the only rage potential here being the Khan.
You already have some knights clashing into each other in the middle, also have some camel archers coming in, but the other problem with the camel archers is that they will die so easily to a big group of longbowmen, and that's exactly what we're seeing from Kyo. And we haven't mentioned the fact that Say My Name is going for a super early improved siege engineers upgrade, so they really want to play an aggressive game here, already coming up with a battering ram. And as you see, Simjik is not even getting up to castle age as of yet, and with all those longbows also coming in to support, and the spearmen, and the knights from Octu, it looks like the Rus player might get triple teamed over here, and that could be a pretty difficult position to be in. Beautiful micro by Sorakuma, though, picking off the spearman before the ram would be completed.
Beautifully done. Only a couple left here, and if they can snap up that last one, no, more spearmen are rallying to the cause here. They should be able to complete the battering ram, and I understand why the Rus player is being targeted. The mobility of the Rus is so strong, so tough to deal with if they're allowed to continue, because they can kind of carry their teammates in the early game, whereas the Abyssids, the Franks, I mean, they need time to build up. They need those masses, whereas the Rus, they can get things rolling pretty darn effectively. Trade House is going to come in, so H3 coming in for the Rus, and so many scouts are in play, but what can they do with the Royal Knights that have been set up on the other side? The harassment from Say My Name has been so effective, and that's led to a mass of knights, massive longbows, and now battering rams, two of them that have been constructed and ready to pounce on Samjik's base.
Exactly. Now you see, scouts are being pulled by Samjik though, and that's a clever idea. He's got a bunch of leftover scouts with high torch damage. They can try slowing down this push. As you said, it's going to be the high trade house coming in, which is a little unconventional. Usually you see the Abbey of Trinity coming up, but Samjik is one of those players that loves this building, and he would just go for a monastery to collect relics. But now he's switching into men-at-arms. That's a good response to what he's seeing on the battlefield, but obviously, if he has to go for full men-at-arms, he won't really be able to play horse archers. But that's going to be an advantage for Say My Name's team.
Yeah, they need to use whatever advantage they have. They need to survive this game, this early game, before they can even start massing at some point in time. Camel Archers are firing away as a big big fight here ensues between all the knights, and looks like our blue knights from Demon Sheep are winning out in this fight. Scouts are doing so much burning damage to their battering rams, pretty much all done and destroyed. And the longbows are in pretty much full retreat. The rest of the knights are going down. Camel archers are rallying in, and the attack has been thwarted, Lita. What a great way to get it all done. And here's all 3 barracks that have now been constructed. This early game is saved for now.
For now, as you said, because now you have some more spearmen coming in, and those spears have been able to get some nice hits on the Blue Knights. Now you see some men-at-arms coming in. Those will be able to clean up everything over here. But at this point, the way that Say My Name's team has to approach this is that you just force the Rus player to play men-at-arms, which is exactly what you want to accomplish here. You want to avoid the Rus player playing horse archers, and if you add it to the fact that Simjik also went up with the Hydrate House and not the Abbey, that means that they're not going to be very fast collecting relics, and they're not going for their ideal or most powerful unit composition. So you managed to get quite a lot of accomplishments over here, I would say, for Say My Name's team.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at how this sort of reaction to save the moment is going to have an impact on the mid to late game as we're pretty much entering that phase. You can tell the kind of different battle phases, the skirmish phases. You know, this also works well as this is, you know, a relic game. It kind of transitions a lot of those ideas over from not just AoE but Company of Heroes into AoE4, where there's different phases into the game and different expectations to each one of these phases. And yeah, those men-at-arms, at some point, you kind of want to stop producing them, but how can you tell what is the right amount of men-at-arms to have to protect yourself from any attacks?
I feel like you just gotta make a decision at some point and start transitioning to horse archers. What you want to do probably is start adding horse archers, but still keep adding men-at-arms, because while those men-at-arms are slow, they're still powerful, so they will be able to soak up a lot of arrow fire. They fare well as a very good meat shield unit. They're slow, but that's their only weakness here. This being said, it looks like the forces of Say My Name's team are switching to the right side, and suddenly the French player could find himself in trouble. The biggest problem that Sorakuma's team is facing right now is that the camel archers will just die to longbows so easily. Once you get a good mass of camel archers, they're dangerous, but massing them is so difficult as compared to the longbows or the Mongol spearmen.
That expense is definitely something you have to factor in. And you see the big split here for the Kyo All Fallen team, who are kind of now in the chase. The Knights are keeping up pretty quickly. Longbows can stand their ground at some point in time here, but maybe the best course of action is for a small engagement and then fall back. The men-at-arms will absorb that first impact of the Knights, with now our Blue Knights getting into combat. Camel Ashers are firing in, but maybe this should be time for the retreat here. Yeah, majority of the men-at-arms have been cleaned up. Those longbows are just doing so much damage, cleaning up more and more of those Knights. But still, the men-at-arms are alive. They're just doing their job so well. Even though their numbers have been trimmed down substantially, more have rallied to the cause, and this is going to force the retreat. Don't lose that massive longbows. The only thing that they can do is just stand their ground and fight as best as they can. But our English player of Kyo is just going to have to get it all started all over again. Looks like Kyo has all but fallen right now.
Exactly, Say My Name reaching Castle Age just now. And one thing that we haven't talked about with the English and their mobility or lack of mobility is that it also hurts when you get caught out of position. If you have civilizations like the Rus with the horse archers or French with the cavalry, they can always run away from combat they don't want to take. Not so much with the English. If you get caught off guard, you might as well lose your entire army. So now we have two Castle Age players. It is the Mongols and the Rus. The Rus still has a lot of men-at-arms, and currently there is no response to those. As we get to Castle Age for the VCL team, though, we will see crossbowmen hit the field. Wouldn't be surprised to see that already for Say My Name, or just a couple of men-at-arms, but he's in a bit of a trouble as well, because his production buildings are already being harassed by a couple of men-at-arms that just arrived.
Yeah, that's actually quite well, targeting down the stable to be destroyed. Already one has been destroyed just a bit ago. Those will fall quite fast with more reinforcements coming in. Just piling up on Say My Name as the Mongol. I mean, yeah, you harass in the early game, you're going to have something done to you at some point. And if all those longbows have been lost, it's going to take a while before a counter army is built up and ready to save you.
And that's the power of the men-at-arms here. They're slow, but once they get there, compared to the horse archers, they do a lot of building damage. So The horse archers wouldn't be able to torch down all of those buildings, the men-at-arms can, and of course the men-at-arms absorb a lot of arrow fire as well, so it's a lot more difficult to clean them up in the town center, and suddenly, Say My Name is in trouble here because you see camel archers hit the field, you see even the scouts being pulled to just burn down those production buildings, and the men-at-arms already ravaging the eco of Say My Name. Say My Name is in serious trouble here.
Yeah, and Sorakuma just hit Castle Age, so you're going to see a power spike come up pretty soon. Just you want to start massing those camel archers, and because he's been unmolested for this whole time, he's going to have the eco to actually do so. Not sure how many resources and just infantry in general can be dedicated to harassing your opponent, but yeah, that is a lot of damage now being done to that town center. It's completely full here of all the villas, but there's so much torch damage that's being done. Scouts are chiming in, and the Royal Knights are coming in to try to save the day. You have to decide, do we focus, do we take the fight here, or do we just fall back? There's nobody to come in and reinforce for this fight. And slow trickle in from the left-hand side, or the right-hand side is coming to save the day. Potentially, the Knights are getting fairly low on HP, being targeted down by the Horse Archers, and all of that longbow fire is being absorbed by the men-at-arms who just keep on arriving. And there's the veteran Camel Archers. We're going to start seeing more of those on the field. They can chase, they can do a lot of work, and those Knights won't be lasting too long against them. TC is getting precariously low on health, and this might just be a forfeit TC.
Indeed, all of those villagers might just go down over here, and honestly, at the beginning, the men-at-arms play felt like just a reaction to the opponent's play, but honestly, it might actually have worked better than the full horse archer play, because the longbows would perform well against the horse archers, but the longbows struggle so much against the men-at-arms. And while the knights do decently against them, when you have some camel archer and horse archer support, the knights won't be able to take such good engagements either. You already have Castle Age as well for Demon Sheep, and now he's got those Castle Age knights jumping on the longbows. And behind this one, Say My Name's losing his second landmark here, so if he loses the step redoubt, he's gonna be out of this game. He has already lost a ton of eco, and now we have VCL in full retreat.
In full retreat, but the Knights from Demon Sheep came in at the perfect moment. Longbows, yes, they can do a lot of damage, a lot of work here with the mass that they have here, but they're still beating up a retreat. And, well, the Mongol Vills are just trying to escape in their own and build up whatever they can. But half of those longbows have been killed off, and at this point, Say My Name is pretty much inactive. He's collecting whatever he can, but he's pushing all of his buildings away, so he's going to be separated from his teammates for quite a while. They're going to have to share resources and share the space very, well, in just a bit of time here. Now putting up pressure on our French player of TU. At one point, does that School of Cavalry go down? Because you don't have to care about that step readout too much.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. At this point, Say My Name, you could technically defeat him, you could knock him out of the game, but he's already half dead at this point. So the best thing that you could do is leverage the fact that right now you're playing 2 versus 3. Might as well push the eco of Octiu over here. Behind this one, you also have a second town center for the Rus player, and I really like how he's still adding men-at-arms here in the end, because turns out that against the opponents that have a lot of longbows, the men-at-arms will be a much better unit than the horse archers will. And this is one of the underappreciated things in the Rus. It is not the horse archers necessarily that are just extremely powerful for them, or not alone. It's also the fast castle build that gives them a chance to go for units like men-at-arms or powerful Castle Age Knights so fast. Speaking of Castle Age Knights, now we have those for green as well. But as you said, their army numbers are minimal at this point, and you see just a massive horde of men-at-arms coming in, and those burn down buildings really fast.
That School of Cavalry might not last long, and yes, if you try to mass, there's still a Mangonel in the back that's going to do some pretty decent damage against you. Horse Archers also placed in the back. Longbows have to be careful here, just because they cannot do a ton of damage against the men-at-arms. There's just not enough here. Look at that. At some point, there's going to be a beautiful shot into the middle of those longbows. It might not be able to do much against the Mangonel. They're also being charged down by the cavalry that's going to push them back. But hey, Veteran Royal Knights coming in, maybe trying to save the day if they can destroy the Mangonel. One of them is still left alive, and those Knights are down. Mango's actually pushing up real close. They're really chasing those longbows as School of Cavalry is halfway burnt to the ground. Once that goes down, it might just start spelling disaster. Some stables are being built up in the back by a French player of TU, but it might be too little too late.
Exactly, those longbows are being pushed back. If they don't turn back to shoot, the knights will just kill them. If they turn back, the mangonel is going to chase them down. Some crossbows hitting the field here for Kyo to save the day. And crossbows are exactly what they need. Against
Hmm.
knights, against the men-at-arms, it's probably the best unit that you can make. The problem is that now, Octio is also being set back so heavily. His entire food eco is idle. His towers are being burnt down. I really feel like the only thing that Siamjik needs is a couple of rams, but even that
Yeah.
won't be necessary because VCL resigns. And after that very good early aggression from Say My Name's team, the Men-at-Arms carry Kyo All Fallen to a game number 1 victory.
I mean, I talked about the early game, the Roos being able to really carry their teammates should they get into a tough position. It was a smart decision from I think always the colors from VCL to kind of focus down our Roost player in the red early in the game. But unfortunately, that fight really did not go their way. The Rams couldn't accomplish anything. They couldn't destroy any building out of it, and it kind of felt like a bit of a waste. They took a second engagement. They probably shouldn't have, and from that second engagement on, it was just downhill from there. Just go back home, mass up. You're not being pushed at this time. Adapt. You saw that there. I don't even know if even the barracks in the back were spotted at that point. Maybe they only saw a couple of those men at arms, but probably not until the fight that happened in the middle. And the transition from longbows to crossbows took too long. By the time I actually see crossbows out on the field, the game is already done.
And looking at the army numbers, that is just spectacular. Like at minute 15, you already had like 60 army for Siamjik, and all of those are capable of destroying buildings as well. So
Yep.
it's not just horse archers that run into the eco, kill a couple of villagers, then villagers garrison into towers. We're seeing that more and more, that you just make 5-10 towers inside your base, and the horse archers can't raid you that much. But when you have men-at-arms on the battlefield, suddenly they can start knocking down buildings, and that's exactly what happened to Say My Name. Say My Name wasn't far away from getting some Castlage army on the field, but obviously, Siamjik, he was able to repel the attack, and then from that point on, he could just spam all those men-at-arms. And we have to keep in mind that men-at-arms are basically a food-heavy unit. And with all the deer that he
Mhm.
could ferry in, and with a tier 3 bounty, his food eco was very good. So he could afford the men-at-arms play very easily. And after that, Sorakuma and Demon Sheep just had to assist. They didn't have to do anything spectacular. It was all the men-at-arms leading the way over here. And with that, Kyo All Fallen takes a fairly decisive game number 1 victory here.
Yeah, pretty impressive. I have to hand it to Say My Name and his ability to harass in the early game. He didn't need to even dedicate resources into outposts, but Surakuma was not contested at all during all of this. He was able to build up just a few camel archers that, gave his team a bit of an advantage, able to deal with the knights that came out from TU. So it was that. It was just they able to scrounge up just enough Kyo All Fallen to defend Siamjik. Battering rams couldn't do much, and that was even before the men at arms were in play. Honestly, beautiful to see. Siamjik also picked up those deer and ferried them to Demon Sheep very quickly. So our French player was able to collect food very quickly and able to get back into the game, get back into production the moment that the Mongol player from Say My Name had been repelled onto his gold. So very good team play. And then Siamjik getting his food back up. The moment he could get that deer, he got that hunt out so quickly, the bounties. And that allowed him to just snowball the moment that they realized, hey, they're going to keep it going here with longbows. We might as well just keep forcing fights and bring up men-at-arms. That was beautiful adaptation.
Yep, the reaction was very good. And I don't think that they initially thought about the men-at-arms being their primary unit. It was just like...
No way.
It was
There's
one of those,
no way that was it.
It was one of those situations where it's like, I have to react to this one with men-at-arms, and turns out men-at-arms are good, and you didn't even have to add a lot of horse archers. You could see a couple of them on the field, but especially against the English that want to play with longbows for a long time, the longbows are no answer to the men-at-arms. The Mongol player mostly had spearmen, so the men-at-arms also beat that, and the men-at-arms, being Castlage units, won't trade that badly against the feudal age knights of your opponent either, so suddenly you have a unit that's capable of beating at least 2, potentially 3 opponents worth of armies. And now, Going into game number 2, Mongols are still available for Kyo All Fallen. That's the magical thing here, that not only did they just win a game, they did that with the Abbasids, and now they have Mongols available still to play, depending on the map, of course, Chinese Holy Roman Empire being out there. The map is going to be...
Surprise me.
High view, so open map once again. So having the Mongols available there is a pretty massive thing right now.
Yeah, this is where this conversation of, hey, we're now thinking of a best of 5 and not just of an individual map. That is beautiful to see. Honestly, that is great teamwork, great preparation ahead. And, you know, I said in the beginning, hey, Kyo All Fallen, I'm really excited to see how they'll be able to kind of play with Abbasid in their corner. Looks like it worked out well for them. I love the way they do it. We'll see how they can run it on high by Say My Name in this case. And I kind of wonder how this will go with HRE, English, and Mongols on the other side.
Indeed, this is one of those situations where you have 2 open maps right after each other. And the civilization rules are fairly simple. You cannot pick the same civilizations that you did in the directly preceding game. And oftentimes what we have seen is that game number 2 goes into something like Danube River, something like Hillandale, so slow map, which requires completely different civilizations than an open land map. But this time around, we have a second open map, which means that the team that used Rus won't be able to use it, the team that used Mongols won't be able to use it. So you'll have to plug in some other civilizations, and you see Sorakuma is going Holy Roman Empire, not a civilization that you see every day on high view. On the other side, you got Rus, you got Chinese working for Say My Name's team, and of course the Abbasids. I kind of feel like I like the civilizations of Siamjik's team a little bit better though, because the Holy Roman Empire, let's not underestimate them as a fast castle knight civilization. You can nail a very good castle age timing, and you can play the role of the French player here without any major issues, but you will be a little later adding knights, but of course they will be a little stronger because they're already castle age units.
So with 3 minutes in, you have to wipe away that last map from your memory if you're a VCL on the squad. And think about what to do with Chinese in this case. You think this is a proper response to seeing, hey, if they're going to go Men-at-Arms, we might as well go Clock Tower and Nest of Bees, and we can smash that infantry before they become a problem for us.
Exactly. There is also going to be an English picked here. This is something that we talked about yesterday. English is probably one of the riskiest picks on this map. The map is full of stealth forests. You have a slow-moving army. This is just the perfect scenario for the opponents to ambush you. Of course, you will also have a Chinese player here on the other side that ultimately wants to go for Fire Lancers, but at the beginning I would expect him to go very aggressive on the Horseman department. The big question, I think, is going to be how the Abbasids are played for Say My Name. I can see him trying to be as aggressive as he was with the Mongols and just go for that ram push attempt once again. But that's going to be difficult to pull off. On the other side, of course, you have Mongols available for Siamjik, so the opportunity to be aggressive is there for him as well.
Yeah, that early game, honestly, I'm going to be looking very closely at it just to see how much action there's going to be through it, because I'm expecting some work in that early game. There has to be some pressure, and Kyo All Fallen have to feel some heat from VCL, like effective, because outside of Say My Name playing to the strengths of Mongols and not really playing too much into it, we didn't see any outposts in that case.
Exactly. He didn't go for
how much
towers.
can you do in the early?
I think it's going to come down to whoever you're up against, because Siamjik is likely going to play the Mongols in a flank position. If he's up against the Rus, it might be a completely different approach than, let's say, being up against the Abbasids here, because the Abbasids might have a hard time defending against an early push. But I think if you are Siamjik, you really want to target the Chinese player. The Chinese player is likely going for a cavalry play, and it's likely going to be your pocket, and he is the player that you want to delay the most, because an untouched Chinese player is one of the most dangerous players out there.
Yeah, that's true. But how long can you survive as the Chinese? Maybe Samjik is going to come in and cause a lot of problems. We saw how effective he was on Rus. I can only imagine how it's going to be like on Mongols if he's allowed to harass you in the early game, not even allow you to get to more comfortable position with eco where you can actually start building up an effective army composition. They start likening these things to playing Protoss in StarCraft. I know there's a lot of StarCraft 2 players that kind of come in watching AoE4, pulled in by a lot of the old SC2 pro players that we see in AoE4. And it's like, liken it to a Protoss army. You cannot just solo build one singular unit. You have to have a composition that fits all together. Let's leave Adepts out of this. And you can do a lot of work in that case. Without a proper composition, you can't do well. And how can you reach that? You have to have a proper eco. But we're in game. Lita, all yours.
Welcome to game number 2 in between Kyo All Fallen from Taiwan versus VCL from Vietnam. It is game number 2 of the home map of VCL. It is high view up north. You're going to have in the pocket position Sorakuma playing as the red Holy Roman Empire. In the flank, you're going to have Siamjik playing as the Mongols in yellow. And on the other side, you're going to have Demoshi playing as the English in blue. Down south, Octiu is going to be picking the Chinese in the flank position, somewhat surprisingly. The pocket is going to be the Rus for Kaio in teal. And last but not least, Say My Name is going to be picking purple with the Abbasids on the far right. The first thing I'm noticing is that you're going to have the Chinese in a flank position, and with berries and the gold mine on the front, this is just a wide open opportunity for the Mongol player to do a lot of damage.
So, show me that early game. Show me what happens in here. Say My Name might be a bit exposing this game. I'm trying to just kind of match up the positions in here. Yeah. So we might see Say My Name being isolated in this case, just because of his position. Do you think that's something that kind of Demon Sheep can play into with early longbow harass, or maybe having Semjik coming in and helping him out in that fight?
I think Siamjik is going to be the wild card over here, because with the Mongols, he definitely has the tools to do a lot of damage, and especially having that mill up front as well is worrisome for Octiu, simply because with the Chinese, you want to have that supervised mill as part of your food economy. In fact, you basically just want to have deer ferried in there, or sheep being consumed all day, all night. If you're running low on sheep, you might even want one of your teammates to bring in some extra sheep for you, because that's what the Chinese benefit from the most. But as I said, early aggression could be worrisome, and you already see scouts popping out here for Siamjik. I'm curious if he even scouted his opponent, or he's just blindly going for aggression, and the answer is that he hasn't even scouted how exposed Octiu is, so this is basically just
Oh
blind
my.
aggression from him.
That's actually pretty interesting once you look at it that way. He's going to move up and try to see, okay, well, how are they going to be separated? And probably rely on some information from his teammates in the meantime, too. And see, okay, well, if I can detect something, maybe I can, I start isolating my opponents in this way. So the next, 3 or 4 minutes of information and buildup are going to be incredibly important. Early game can absolutely ruin players if a Mongol player can constantly keep kiting them and isolating them.
Exactly. Looks like scouts are popping out. I love how Siamjik is using the scouting falcon as well for those scouts. And he's even taking down some hunts. It looks like he's not going to pressure Octiu. He's just going to get some hunts killed, mainly because their opponents have a Rus player. So obviously, having the Mongol player killing some hunt with the early scouts is going to reduce the amount of bounty accessible for Kaio.
Mm-hmm.
This being said, there is a lot of bounty accessible on this map. You have a lot of wolves, the standard amount of hunt, so there is no way that they can keep that Rus player below 500, him being the only player collecting bounty.
Yeah, it is. It is a very big challenge here to try to accomplish. So, not sure how effective they're going to be at it. And Kyo is already at 380, 390 right now. So it's pretty much nigh impossible to stop him. Only 100 away from his 500 bounty tier. So all good to go. Not going to have any problems in that case. And the faster the Rus can build up, the faster he's going to be at ferrying deer to his teammates if necessary, into coming in for defense if necessary. So he's doing his job very well, and he's pretty much now at the 500 tier that he needs for that early game.
Exactly, he's getting very close to that. He already has a ton of scouts out, and he is ready to bring in deer. Actually, he has added scouts faster than professional scouts. That is because he's not up to feudal age yet. So this is something that you don't often see Rus players do. Most of the time, you see them getting up to feudal age, getting
Mhm.
professional scouts first, and then adding the scouts to ferry in deer. It's pretty uncommon to see the Rus player already having 7, 8 scouts by the time he hits feudal age.
This kind of a reaction of, hey, just in case I get harassed in the early game, I have a response to it. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think it's just a slightly different build order over here.
Okay.
Because this way he can start ferrying in deer the moment he gets professional scouts, that he's gonna have a lot of scouts to work with. I think it comes down to whether or not you can afford those scouts as you go up. Now, here's the problem. Those scouts and now horsemen from Siamjik are all the way up here in the base of Octiu. There's a tower crawling up, but even without that tower, that's already 4 horsemen, 4 scouts. The tower is going to be forced on Octiu, and that's his entire food eco exposed there. Losing that is an absolute disaster for him.
Oh my, they're forced off the outpost, and the Barbican of the Sun is set way in the back, so can't really do anything to help out, but the outpost will go in, and you can at least save the majority of those villagers, one of them very low on HP in this case. So not too shabby, but the outpost on the other side of those berry bushes is going to come out. Scout's been spotted. He's going to be rushed down pretty effectively. That scout is caught in the middle of the melee, and he's going to go down. Very effective response, and that outpost should go up quickly.
Yeah, this is one of those stalemates where this outpost here for Octiu is going to hold against the horsemen, but the tower going up will still mean that this mill is denied, and if the mill is denied, then you can't supervise it. You won't have the chance to get that good Chinese food eco. For Octiu, you could justify making a mill all the way at the back, transferring all your sheep out there and just supervise that. He has managed to get the Barbican of the Sun up though. He's got a barracks going for some spearmen. He's mining stone, so he's working towards that 2 town center build steadily. On the other side of the map, we have longbows being masked by demon sheep, but a fairly passive early game so far. The only aggression is on the left side by Siamjik.
Yeah, and how much can he accomplish with this? You're expecting, hey, he's going to be able to pull the villagers off the carcasses and actually killing one of the vills. But this is the point where you just say, you know what, to hell with this. I'm going to turn back to the TC, sit in a pretty comfortable position, and just collect whatever I have with the sheep that are already there. It's not too bad, and maybe ask my teammate in the Rus to get me something to help me here in the meantime. But what has Samjik done? He's turned his attention over to the Rus player, trying to hit his house in the meantime because you want to burn those down and get those extra bonus resources for yourself as the Mongols. Great reaction here. One of them will go down. No focus on the hunting cabin because there's a bit of range play that can come in, but not too bad. Just trying to get something done in the meantime.
Nice reaction from Octiu, though. He's realizing that his opponent is gone from here, so he's going to rush down that tower. He's going to lose some villagers. There's already one dead villager, a second one goes down. But given the fact that he's mining stone, he wants to go for a second town center. So for him, losing 1 or 2 villagers is completely acceptable, and you see he's trying to pick off that forward vill. It might go a little too risky because now you got some horsemen coming in and your own villager is also out there.
Oh no. Oh no. The spearman's going to try to focus down that villager, but he's doing quite well, surviving down to 26 HP. Half HP pretty much, but that outpost should go up. That defensive outpost that's set up by Octu is in a cash money position. Look at that. Great here to try to angle down his opponent's outpost. Not going to be able to do too much damage to it, but at least putting some pressure on it and just keeping things in play. Horsemen trying to advance up, but they realize can't do much with the massive villagers that are around, the amount of damage that the tower can do. And I don't know how much this harassment is accomplishing now as everybody's hitting a feudal and Sorakuma being in Castle Age himself here as the HRE.
This is looking really good for Kyo All Fallen, because now they have the pocket Holy Roman Empire player, and this is one of the underappreciated things of the Holy Roman Empire. Their fast castle is really powerful, especially if they can keep ferrying in the air. Now, with all the map control Kyo All Fallen has, they can just go for the relics from the Ragnitz Cathedral, and now you can start popping out Castle Age Knights, so you basically fill in a very similar role compared to the French over here, On the right side, Demon Sheep is crawling up with towers, so he's gonna have the network of casters bonus expanded. Back inside his base, Say My Name is going for Horsemen, but if you combine Knights and Longbows, those should win against the Horsemen quite easily. Horse Archers, though, coming in for Kyle, he's gonna need to do something against this, and I love the Stonewall play from Octio, that's very clever. The Stonewall section with a tower built on it, these towers still have the Old Spring odds, which means that they have 60 damage per projectile. It still takes some time to destroy those towers, but it gives you a lot of safety. So these Stonewall sections having towers on it is actually a very clever way to play this one for Octio, who is now adding a couple of archers as well into his army.
Yeah, perfect. You can just still lay them on top of the stone walls if need be. This is giving me stronghold vibes right here with this sort of play. See how powerful these stone walls and stone wall towers can be in just holding the line or just doing damage to your opponents as they try to skirt by you. It gives you a bit of breathing room and a bit of breathing space. And as a reaction to this, Samjik is going to turn around and harass the Rus in the meantime. The hunting cabin might be put under pressure. A bit of dirt burning damage on. No, pushing up into the villagers. They're going to run away, and actually one of them getting close to death, but he'll survive. Warrior Monk will come in and heal up that villager with one horseman lost in this quick engagement. Things stabilize, and that Samjik push is going to be pushed back. Outposts will start falling in just a bit and pretty much transition into our mid game as players will start heading into Castle Age.
Bit of fighting happening at Say My Name's base. So far the defense is very nice, but you just love how those knights are being used by Sorakuma to soak up the arrow fire, and this is why those yellow horsemen being able to harass Kaio was massive, because they were able to force those horsemen to stay back, and now the horsemen from Samjik are jumping on the forces of Octio. The archers can go on top of the walls, but there is already a couple of dead villagers, and this is the main problem right now for VCL. Octio is stuck inside his base, and right now on the right side, I think Sorakuma and Demon Sheep are winning over Say My Name and Kaio.
Yeah, a lot of horse archers that have been put up together though by Kaio. He's gonna have to deal with a lot of longbows, and those will clean you up very, very quickly. Longbows are definitely a very basic unit, but they are very powerful to have. And like you mentioned earlier, a few minutes ago, having knights and longbows together, yes, now longbows will do damage. They can, keep on healing themselves, but they also have knights to protect them on the flanks. Battering rams also being pushed up here. This is great to have. In the meantime, more harassment coming down onto the Rus as the first tower has gone down for Say My Name, razed to the ground. Battering rams absorbing all of that damage from the horse archers. Horsemen trying to engage, but the knights are just by them. Longbows are firing deep into them. They're going to put down their spikes or anything. I'm not sure if they're ready for this sort of play, but the horsemen just cannot tank much damage at all, and the knights are just keeping up the chase. Everything melting down, even horse archers losing a lot of their numbers. This might just be the perfect cleanup, keeping up with those knights, keeping them alive, and the longbows just stay practically untouched with more numbers coming in to rally. Over 30 of them currently on the field, Lita.
And even the scouts got intercepted. Not sure if that was the original plan here for Kaio. I think he just wanted to avoid that fight. And as you said, the big thing here is that knights soak up so much arrow fire. The horse archers should be able to trade quite nicely against them, but the horsemen are really poorly performing, and the most important thing is that these are Castle Age knights. It's not like a French knight pushing Feudal Age, and this is the magic of the Holy Roman Empire here. Behind this one, there are sacred sites being captured as well by Sorakuma. He already has 3 relics in the Ragnitz Cathedral, so he's got a whopping 900 gold per minute passive gold income just from the relics. And while there is nothing special with the Holy Roman Empire knights, one thing that goes for you is that you have a great economy, so you can just really flood those knights out.
Yeah, you don't have the quality that the French will give you in terms of pure knights, but what you need right now, especially versus horsemen, is just, and against those horse archers, is just a mass of cavalry, something to tank the damage that allows your longbows to stay alive, and they're going to be the real damage dealers in this case. Another tower is going to fall. The battering rams are still at half HP pretty much, so they can still do a lot of work to steer a lot of eco here as you see them keeping up the pressure. Horse archers, how much can they do? Honestly, the battering rams themselves just force you to micromanage more than what you would want. There's a bit of overkill damage that'll come out from the horse archers just to avoid a lot of your fire being put into the battering rams. And maybe constructing a couple more of those is going to give you a lot of space to maneuver around this. And this leaves the TC out in the open, the Absence.
And Siamjik is up to Castle Age as well, so while his horsemen fell quite easily to the tower fire, the knights will last a lot longer. And now you see, since Kyo is forced to defend his teammate on the right side, those lancers will just come in and start killing villagers, warrior monks, the tower is even coming up here. Now, unless Kyo is pulling all his forces back here to clean this up, he's going to be facing a lot of that villagers, and that is just a scary army to fight against. We're talking about 16 of those knights and a whopping 45 longbowmen, and the rampush is about to begin on that starting town center. There are 2 town centers over here for Say My Name, but economy isn't going to save you at this point. You need army on the battlefield.
I'm not sure how greedy of a maneuver that was to build up the second TC. Or maybe it was timed just right to allow those longbows and the calf to keep on pushing in. TC is around 3rd HP, but there's just not enough mass to deal with. At this point, 16 knights and 50 longbows, with more rallying in, with outposts in the back also to secure them. This is going to be a very tough fight, and you just need a mass for it. But making sure that Kyo is constantly watching out for his base. Up to you always needs to watch for, hey, what if I'm going to get raided by Samchik and his own lancers? It is a tough time and a lot of different places for you to keep on looking into as that main TC just gets built in. The villagers themselves might have to rush in for the fight, pulling in the boys and girls for it. But yeah, that TC goes down, Lita.
It is gonna go down, and the most important thing right now is that Siamjik is distracting 2 players. Octiu is stuck within his base, still dealing with those towers and those lancers.
Oh no.
Kyo is still forced to defend back at home with like 20 horse archers, and this just leaves the right side to be in a 2v1. I love how Demon Sheep built an archer range on the front. He knows exactly that reinforcing this battle is key, so having an archer range out there gives him that chance, and now those rams are in full cruise control. They're going for that House of Wisdom, and if that goes down, the Abbasid player gets knocked out of the game. This is a final hurrah over here by Say My Name's forces, but their numbers are just not there. The quality of the units are not there. And I wouldn't be surprised to see VCL tapping out of this one any moment.
I mean, at some point, there's no wood at all. No, not enough wood. And that's not something that you ever want to see pop up on your screen. Getting 10 vills onto one tree just to chop anything and keep up the repairs. But 3 battering rams and all that support behind them, incredible. Honestly, Kyo All Fallen, beautifully played. Harassment from the early game and keeping up the pressure. The Abbasid, Say My Name, could not do much. They identified him as the perfect target. He went greedy for the 2 TCs, and that unfortunately does not help when all you have are some light horse. They're gonna get smacked against that longbow knight combination. And like you said, yes, it's not French, it's HRE, but they were untouched the whole time. They're able to get their economy rolling. They had all the relics in the world, and they could pump out knights like it's nothing.
Exactly. Just for reference, Sorakuma collected 9,500 gold with the Holy Roman Empire.
God.
That's more than their opponents combined. That is just a brutal stat. Their opponents combined for about 5,000 gold. Almost double was collected by Sorakuma single-handedly. And the brutal thing is that he only had 3 relics, because he was up against a Rus player that also got 3. If he had gotten a 4th or a 5th one, it would have been even more brutal. So, really, I think, as we discussed, Siamjik being able to sort of pin Octiu inside his base, slow him down quite a bit, helped. And as you said, it may have been a little bit of a greedy decision to go for 2 TCs with the Abbasids here on high view. And if you remember, there was also a lot of stone being mined by the Chinese player. So I assume that the idea with the Chinese civilization was that you wanted to go for some level of economy expansion, at least second town center, because he's been mining a lot of stone. So I feel like maybe they wanted to go a little too greedy here. If their opponents were a little more passive, then this could have paid off. But given how aggressive in game number 1 Kyo All Fallen was, I'm a little surprised that they went for this very economy heavy approach, because in game number 1 we could see a lot of aggression from Sorakuma's team, and that just repeated itself in game number 2.
That was really painful to see the ended. And I'm wondering, how do you come back from this? What lessons can you learn? And how can you prepare yourself for the next map? Because it looks like open maps is just not the way to go. Kyo All Fallen just look unbeatable with how they're able to flex their muscle all around the map and constantly keep up the pressure, identify weak points, and just put the pressure on. Beautiful to see.
And now we have Lipony coming in, and that is
Ooh.
also a somewhat open map. This is the first time we're seeing it in the tournament, actually. Part of the reason why is because Lipony has sometimes issues with how the players spawn in terms of picking positions. The map spawns are fairly consistent and balanced, but map spawn for player positions can be tricky. So, just like any other map in this main event, you have pre-picked seeds in order to make sure that the players spawn in appropriate locations. But obviously, because that's a little more difficult to pull off for like 90 teams in the qualifiers, Lipony was not used during the qualifiers.
Then I wonder what could be prepared in terms of actual civilizations for this now, because the Chinese couldn't do anything. The Abysses are pretty much useless, and the Rus were trying, but you need you're looking to like raid with the Rus or have them as kind of support around their teammates, or defending their teammates' bases with their horse archers when necessary. At least we know, what, Mongols, English, HRE are not on the line for Kyo All Fallen, but that just means that they can go for French and play them in this situation and have some pretty effective knights to deal with. They can go for Rus as well, which would be pretty effective for them, and maybe go Abbasid again, or Chinese if they're expecting a longer game where, hey, you know what, maybe not as open, maybe want to play a longer game, but knowing how, or at least having seen the past couple of maps and how VCL can't really figure out the right way to respond to opponents in their early games, why not just double down? We're going to smash you in the early to mid game and just choke you out.
And now we have to mention that Rus will not be available for VCL coming into this game. They will have Mongols back once again. But on the other side, you are going to have no Mongols for Simjik's team. They will have French available for both teams, but Rus will also be in the hands of Kyo All Fallen. The main difference between Lipony and Highview or Arabia is that it is a little easier to wall yourself up. You got some cliffs in the middle of the map, and those cliffs can act as a very good natural barrier to wall your team off. So it oftentimes is much easier to get some walls up and protect at least one side of the map compared to a completely open map like Arabia.
Yeah. Well. How does it go down? Do you expect this to, be a comeback? And if not, how can it become that? What needs to happen here? What's the win condition for VCL in this case to just take this game deeper?
This is a tough question. Because I feel like so far, VCL wasn't playing bad, but you just feel like there's a skill difference between the two teams, or at least, at minimum, a difference in the confidence, because Kyo All Fallen seem to be confident with every move they make. They work as a team very well. Their moves are consistent with each other's game plans. So you see there is a lot of synergy with their strategies. They could see that the men-at-arms work well, so they just went on with it. So their strategy choices seem to be on point. They're very aggressive. I feel like the first step for VCL is to slow the game down, because early game is definitely something that seems to be favoring Kyo All Fallen. So I would start with slowing the game down, trying to go for a little more defensive approach, use the fact that you could potentially get some walls up on Lipony, and then try to drag this out to be a longer game, a game where you have a chance to get a good boom up, and potentially play a late game scenario, because in a late game scenario, I think the two teams are fairly even. You also need to reset yourself mentally, though, because you just suffered two pretty decisive defeats, so maybe you have to just think over how you want to approach this game number 3 before you jump in there.
So. I'm kind of feeling it here for VCL, Lita. I'm not gonna lie. It's it might be a tough one. It really might be in this case. And I don't know, when we came into this, did you expect Kyo All Fallen to be, so effective in this matchup?
Not really. I expected them to be a good team. They defeated
Mm-hmm.
Hera, Kaposh, and Marine Lord, and
That's pretty good.
that's one of the strongest teams. Like, before the tournament, we looked at the teams, and Hera, Kaposh, and Marine Lord were absolute beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to an extent, they were considered the favorites. They played a couple of show matches and practice sets against other teams, and they just smashed everybody. They defeated in a show match a team like Vortex, Lucifron, and the Mista 3-0. So it really seemed like the team to beat in this tournament. And then, massive surprise, in a best of 3, Kyo All Fallen wins 2-1 against Kaposhi's team, and they move into the top 8. So that was the first big surprise for them. And in general, they had to come through some tough teams to get in here. So as things stand, I think they have been the sort of underestimated team of the tournament, but as they are playing right now, they might actually be the team to beat.
And how do you think that came about? You know, where you're able to defeat such a tough team, you know, with Marine Lord on it, with Hera on it. Like, there has to be something that, you know, it was difficult to deal with in that match. So what do you think was that kind of X factor that they needed to take the W and get in here today?
I think it comes down to potential preparation, because one thing we haven't talked about is that there are places or there are communities where team games have a lot of legacy, and Taiwan is one of those. So these guys play a lot of team games as compared to some other teams where priority is on 1v1s. So these guys are a lot more into the team game meta, and especially a best of 3 set, that can be enough to win you one game. And as I said before, you really feel the synergy in their strategies. You really feel that every move they make is consistent with the moves of the other players on the team. And that is probably the biggest value for them right now. You just feel experience in their gameplay.
Oh, well, we shouldn't be too far away here from actually getting into our game. We got Rus, French, and Abbasid. French for Demon Sheep, Rus for Semjik, and Abbasid for Sorakuma. On the other side, we got HRE for Kyo, English for Say My Name, and French for Octiu. So still kind of everybody swapping around those different civilizations versus what we had in our last game, with 2 minutes left before we get into it. How important is going to be that early game? Again, Lida, games in AoE4 can be so fast compared to, you know, AoE2. That early game plays so much into it.
It's going to be vital. It is just going to be a matter of life and death at this point, especially because you're up against a Rus. You let a Rus player have a ton of bounty, you let a Rus player have a nice castlage time, he's gonna get 5-6 relics, and then it's going to be very difficult to beat. I do want to highlight the civilization choices for VCL though, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have Mongols available. They didn't use that in the previous game. They had Chinese, Abbasids, and Rus used. So they had the option to go for Mongols, they decided not to. Instead, you see them going for the Holy Roman Empire, and you gotta wonder if this is just something that they based on what they have seen in the previous game. Because in the previous game, they may have seen, okay, Holy Roman Empire, pretty powerful civilization to play with here, very good with the fast Castle cavalry play. But if that's the case, is it a smart idea to go into game number 3 being down 2 games and just trying to mimic what your opponent did in the previous game instead of going with your pre-planned game plan?
That's true. This is something that isn't just unique to AoE4, but like sometimes overthinking your fight. You go in with too many plans, too many things that, okay, well, if we see this one variable, we switch to this plan, then this other variable, then we switch to this. And sometimes there's too much for you to account for in the moment. This is why we talk about, you know, the ability to switch your playstyle on the dime, react effectively, is what we saw from Kyo All Fallen in Map 1. For those that didn't catch it, I highly recommend to go back to it and see adaptation into Men at Arms, because, like you mentioned, Lita, that was probably not the game plan, and yet it somehow benefited them so effectively. So that adaptation in the moment is something that I like to see more of for Kyo All Fallen. In general, they're very good at it, but maybe VCL, you know, a bit of that might need to rub off on them to survive that early game and stretch the map out as long as possible.
And with that being said, game number 3 starting. Match point for Kyo All Fallen. And so far they're up 2-0. Very convincing lead for them. VCL, we'll have to see what they do with the Holy Roman Empire here. There's obviously some risk involved when it comes to not using the Mongols in a map like this. But Lipony, a lot more well defendable than the maps that we have played before. So there's definitely a chance for them to slow down the game.
How much you have to worry about your home TC and your entire base being pushed early game with the map geometry that you have on this?
I think we'll have to see the exact map generation first. Looks like the game is taking its time to load up, something that we sometimes see. And
Do you want to yell at it or do you want to be nice?
no, I just want to wait tiny bit until it decides to work or not. But if I start threatening to alt F4 it, it probably should work.
Depends on how quickly we want it here. So, chat in this case, would you like? Ah, there you go. It just heard the threat. Oh no, chat was gonna decide. We're just gonna get into game. Lida, please take it away.
On the right side of the map, we will have in the third game of this best of 5, match point right now for Kyo All Fallen in blue, red, and yellow. Kyo All Fallen from Taiwan. In the pocket, Damon Sheep playing as the French in blue. Up north, the Abbasid dynasty will be handled by our yellow player Sorakuma. And down south, you have Siamjik playing as the red Rus. Other side, you're going to have the French in the flank position by Octiu in purple. The pocket is going to be Kaio with the Holy Roman Empire in green. And up north, you're going to have Say My Name as the English in teal. At this point, it very much seems like Kaio will try to mimic that Holy Roman Empire gameplay that they fell to in the previous game. But of course, it's a slightly different scenario because you are also going to have French on the opposing team, unlike we had in the previous game.
No. Kyo All Fallen starting up, and Samjik on the Roost is just collecting a bounty left and right. Already on 60 bounty, and he's going to keep it all rolling. He's got so many deer around him, so much hunt that he can use and abuse. And you know what? At some point, he's going to have so many scouts and ferry all those deer carcasses over to his French TC, the Demon Sheep, around the side, and also back to his own base. So it is, prime real estate what he's got right now. He can do so much work with this and just keep up the production, climb up in the early game.
That's a very nice patch of huntables takedown for Siamjik. In fact, it's 2 adjacent patches. You see, he doesn't even care about the wolf because eventually your scout will heal up and just want to take down those deer as fast as possible. Or that 145 bounty is our red player here. Looking at the map, as you see, we don't have a ton of cliffs. Most of them are in the middle, and that's going to cut off the influx of knights from our green player on the left side, because you have a big cliff in front of him. On the bright side of things, it also gives him a lot of safety at the beginning. Looking at the relic spots, most of them are all the way down south. It's rather easy for the Rus player on the south to gather some of those, but it's also fairly convenient for our green player, Kaio, because obviously Sprouts are a little slower than the warrior monks, but he's got at least 2 relics very close to him, so this should be relatively easy for him to swoop up at least 2, potentially 3 relics even, as the Aachen Chapel is already coming in for him.
It's kind of the perfect position for you to be in, right? As Kaio in this case. Okay, I'm HRE. I'm playing the pocket, and I'm very cozy. I can collect whatever I want. I can kind of be the economic powerhouse that my teammates might need me to be. That's great to have. The space in the map, the geometry of it, also, it doesn't allow you to kind of constantly skirt around your opponent's bases. So maybe this is kind of the perfect moment for you to think, okay, this map generation really worked out for us. We can be very comfy in it. But I'm thinking, okay, Octu is the French player, and he's just going up now with a School of Cavalry. On his side is the Rus. What does he have to worry about in this case? Can he, be faced with a quick raid, something like that, even in the early game?
I think the first thing that he has to be worried about is Octiu trying to lame some huntables from him. Ultimately, that's some beautiful micro by Octiu, by the way. He killed like 4 out of those 7 huntables just before Siamjik was able to. But at this point, the players are pretty far away from each other. I don't think that they have to worry about those early aggression that much. I think both Rus and the Holy Roman Empire players should have a clean way into Castle Age.
So scout keeping up here, and we're gonna see our roost with the golden gate being set up and ready to go pretty darn soon. It's at 360 bounties in the meantime. And what is our say my name doing in this time? It's building up his council hall. So again, longbows are probably the way to go, just starting to mass them up. That can work really well with the strategy that we saw from their own opponents in our last game is, you know what, HRE is in pocket. He can get his eco rolling pretty quickly, have him with knights, me with longbows, and we can push effectively together.
Indeed, that is probably the game plan over here. There are some differences as we discussed though, because first things first, there is going to be a French player that can get some knights on the battlefield quite early, that could potentially intercept those early longbowmen. But the bigger thing, I believe, is that the Holy Roman Empire player will have to split the Huntables with at least one player from the opposing side, and that's going to be the Rus. In a previous game, you basically had most of the hunt falling into the hands of the Holy Roman Empire player, and it obviously helped a lot with their food eco. And of course, in a previous game, you also had one player from VCL pretty much being a non-factor military-wise because he was set back so much because of that harassment. So that's part of the reason why that 2 versus 3 actually happened in the end. Samjik getting ready to ferry in Deer, and the same thing will be there for Kyo. Of course, the Holy Roman Empire are pretty effective when it comes to ferrying in Deer, but it's usually a slow start because they need to make their scouts from their stable. So they have to gather the wood for the stable, make it, and then make the scouts. And this is standard scouts production over here, unlike the Chinese, which can supervise the stable for faster production.
Yeah. And look what's going on here. Scout has fallen for Octiu, and Samjic just keeps on with his role. He's got so many scouts to play with, 7 in total. He might be able to even take out those 2 French ones for Octiu on the side. The Octiu has spread his scouts all around the map. There's quite a few of them, actually, in this situation. And might be going to pick up whatever food he can gather in this and just bring it back home. Not sure if he's going for any night production just yet. He is being harassed a bit by Demon Sheep, at least trying to poke and prod into his base, see what's up. But maybe Kyo All Fallen are looking to do some early game damage.
And they are doing damage over here because Octiu decided to go for professional scouts, but that means he doesn't have knights on the field. And with that, he already lost 4 villagers on that gold mine. You could see the corpses before. So there's always that risk with the French. You can ferry in Deer for yourself, which is going to give you a good food eco. But in exchange, you're going to start losing some of your economy to the opponent's knights. And Demon Sheep is already amping up the pressure on that gold mine. And this is exactly the situation where you want to avoid, because Octi is going to have a great food eco, but he's going to struggle adding knights now with no constant gold income. And as we discussed before, it is going to be 3 players sharing all those huntables, so the amount each player gets is not gonna be as good as it was in the previous game, let's say.
Yeah. I'm wondering, at one point in time, will we see those scouts being put together by Siamjik, and they're just picking up all the deer carcasses off the floor and ferrying them down to their teammates. Again, distance is covered, and the speed, the maneuverability is why you see a lot of 3v3s devolve into cavalry matches, pretty much. Horse archers, camel archers, knights, whatever it may be. It's not, unusual where you only see cav in play. We had it with longbows in our previous map, but that's, not the constant. We're just trying to pick off those early knights that are coming out by Octiu with a pretty decent mass of Demon Sheep's own knights in this case. They're just going to make sure that early game delay in night production just gets compounded constantly and just delaying you. No more gold for you to produce more knights, no more gold for you to age up, no more space for you to create more knights, and they're gonna get dropped down bit by bit, shipped out before they die off.
Indeed, it's just a rolling snowball right now. Up north, I also love how Sorakuma is leveraging the fact that he's got mobility on those camel archers. You see, Say My Name is forced to pursue, and we're talking about 3 camel archers that are no match to that army over here. 13 longbows would win very easily without taking any losses, but because of the mobility of those camel archers, you have to keep your longbows nearby, and I also love the use of that scout for Sorakuma. He's able to see where the longbows are whereas the longbows are just running blind. They're looking to find their target, but they cannot. And with the scout being accompanied into that army for Sorakuma, he can always avoid those longbows and keep them inside the base of Say My Name. Knights once again swooping in, and now Octiu's eco is looking really, really disappointing. 29 vills only for him, as opposed to the 36 of Demon Sheep. So there's already a 7 villagers difference between the two French players.
Yeah, and that's not even counting the actual military difference, where there's more knights out for Demon Sheep than there is Cav in total, and that includes just scouts and those 3 knights that are down to pretty much half HP on 3 of them, or on 2 of them in total. That's not looking too great. You talked about that scout that's being put with the camels. That's there to negate that range advantage that longbows have, just because you can detect what's going on with them. One knight will fall right under the tower and just fall back, heal up, and just wait up for the next push. Keep up the pressure. What should be the right reaction in this case? Should you be expecting some support from your teammates in this? Do you just go and raid on the other side? What do you think?
I think you just continue doing what you do because, as we discussed, most of the relics are on the south. So when your teammate on the south is struggling, you control that part of the map, and suddenly the Holy Roman Empire player cannot pick up relics. Currently, you have 0 in that Ragnitz Cathedral, and if the Holy Roman Empire aren't able to grab relics, it's basically next to impossible for them to be very effective with that Night Flood. There is one relic coming in here for Kyo, but you see, there is not a single knight from him up on the battlefield, so it's going to take a lot of time for him to become a factor, and by that time, Demon Sheep is going to carve out a massive lead over Octiu. On the right side, the longbows are finally crawling up. That is just vital. Those longbows have to start doing damage to Sorakuma here, because Sorakuma so far hasn't really been making a ton of army. He's just now starting to add archers, and he so far hasn't really been punished for that.
No, and he can sit with those archers in his base and protect just in case, letting his teammates kind of do the work and just maneuvering around with his own camels in the meantime. We see those harsh archers now coming back from Siamjik, and they can do work to the Royal Knights as the French Knights on the blue Demon Sheep just keep on pressuring. All the scouts are going to fall very quickly, and that TC is going to be put under pressure. A couple of villagers are still outside, but pretty much everybody else in town has already come in. 2 villagers, 3 of them are going to be sniped, and the extra scouts, everybody is down and pulled back into that TC. This is where that town bell is perfect to have. And man, there should be a noise that we can just click, and it would just ding, just that AoE2 bell. Bring it all, and everybody from the villagers back inside of the TC. This is a tough position for you to be in if you're Octiu, and this is going to keep on compounding. Look at that mass of Royal Knights for Demon Sheep.
And that mass of Royal Knights will soon be needed on the right side. At this point, Say My Name's team's only chance might be to have a good ramp push on the right, because that could be scary. But one thing we haven't talked about is that Sorakuma, since he wasn't really investing into army at all, he's already in Castle Age, so he's ready for this with Mangonels, and he can make those Mangonels with his infantry being the Abbasids. Even without the support of those blue knights here, Sorakuma might be able to hold. Mangonel's already getting some shots out here. Tower is out there to help. A Springald would help a lot against those Rams, but it's not vital to have. As you see, at this point, Demon Sheep feels confident fighting those green knights. I think that's a bit of an overconfidence, because you don't want to fight against Castle Age knights with Feudal Age ones. But given the fact that Octiu is not going to be a factor for a long time, and the fact that Sorakuma is already Castle Age over Say My Name and should be able to hold with Mangonels, this is looking really good for Kyo All Fallen.
I mean, Sorakuma, all he has to do is survive in this case. There's no need for him to be the one that gets aggressive, because the pressure is being done by his own teammates. In the meantime, battering rams keep on moving up there, just soaking in all the damage from the archers, but you got crossbows that are out trying to deal with any more armored units just in case, and that beautiful Mangonel. Look at the amount of damage, the AoE damage that it can do. And now this push from Say My Name has been repulsed. That outpost will not last for long, and you're going to clean up the battering rams. It's just a matter of time. Yes, damage has been done. It's only a few buildings lost. No real damage to eco, no real damage to the military either. And hey, maybe the longbows can do a bit more here, finding an opening. No, there's still a Mangonel, and it's still doing work. 6 of those longbows will fall just to 1 shot. Another one will come in, and 3 more will go down. And what can you do against this amount of splash damage? Not much. fall back, lose your battering rams, and the villagers even step in to burn the battering ram down. Royal Knights also finally in reinforcements, but it's already been done. The victory condition was to survive, but what's happening on the other side of the map in the meantime, Lita? It seems like Demon Sheep and his massive Royal Knights have been repulsed, and both Octiu and Kyo have been able to mass up a decent few bits of cav themselves.
Indeed, of course, that comes at a price, because this basically leaves Siamjik's Horse Archers completely untracked, and now he's diving into the base of Say My Name. I really think that a couple of Blue Knights would have helped a lot, making sure that Sorokuma doesn't lose that much, and just clean up all those longbows. As you said, those Green Castle Age Knights are still powerful, but behind this you only have one relic. For Kyo, he's going up to Imperial Age though with the Palace of Schwabia, so he's gonna be able to expand his eco, but of course, it's going to take some time until that comes into play and shows on the battlefield. And behind this one, now Say My Name's eco is getting torn apart by Horse Archers, and there is soon going to be an Abbasid player pushing him with Mangonels and Siege. I really just feel like by the time that Palace of Schwabia comes into play, by the time you get those relics in for Kyo, it's gonna be a little too late, because now Demon Sheep is up to Castle Age, so he should be able to fight those Castle Age Knights from Kyo, although Kyo could get the Elite Knights upgrade now if he wants to. Quite a lot of crossbows out for Sorakuma as well, so they could take a decent fight against all those Green Knights.
Oh my, Knights pushed in and they got absolutely obliterated by the Mangonels. So much damage had been done to them, and I love this. Don't take engagements, or at least 2 costly ones, if you're Demon Sheep and the squad of Kyo All Fallen. In the wise words of Tastosis, when you're ahead, get even more ahead. Why? You got the great eco, you're harassing your opponents, keep up harassing. You don't need to take straight up engagements, and this is where you find the opening. Kyo would have had a great time if Octio was near him and he had his own knights in here, but now they realized, hey, Say My Name, he spent so much money trying to push up and so many resources on the long moment to push the Abbasid player back to Sorakuma. Wasn't successful. He's going to be on the back foot. He's now aging up in the meantime because it took him so long. He's still in feudal age. We can push our advantage, push into his TC, kill his eco, kill his military, and we have just enough siege to make that work. As finally, Say My Name hits the Castle Age.
It's just a little too late. Everything is just a little too late for Kyo and his team. The Royal Knights just got the upgrade to Imperial Age Elite Knights for Kyo, but once again, it was a little too late. He just lost like 20 knights just before the upgrades came in. Down south, you have Horse Archers harassing Octiu now, but of course the main spearhead is going into the base of Say My Name. At this point, there are some counterattacks by Octiu, but those are causing minimal damage. And behind this one, just look at the eco of Say My Name. There's Blue Knights ravaging it, and even though those Green Knights are slightly better, there are still some crossbowmen support, and the numbers are just way better for Demon Sheep's team right now.
Yep, and they're all going to get cleaned up. You just cannot get enough of a mass of those Elite Knights to deal with the mass of Demon Sheep's own Veteran Knights. There's Octiu, he's surrendered, and looks like the game is done. A 3-0 for Kyo All Fallen. Lita, what a way and what a quick way to start off our second day.
Total domination. That's all about that. Demon Sheep's team just seemed to be a completely different league over here, I'm not gonna lie. Every single game they played, they were very confident, their strategies had great synergy, and you really just couldn't detect any major mistakes from them. Every single thing they did was just so clean and so smooth, and it's not like VCL played badly. VCL played a very, very good set. It's just the fact that their opponents were just completely outmatching them in terms of skills. Demon Sheep's team is looking extremely powerful. Demon Sheep himself, 84 kills to 11 deaths. That is just spectacular, of course. But even Sorakuma, 36 kills, 18 deaths, and he wasn't really taking the best fights at the beginning of the game. Really, Siamjik, 33-16. All of these players have a more than 2.0 KD, which is just unbelievable in a team game setting.
Yeah, pretty impressive. And I know it's confusing. Kyo is on the team that lost, but Kyo All Fallen have won. I'm so confused. How do I deal with this? Don't worry about it. Kyo is not on the team. That's the whole joke. Kyo All Fallen take it 3-0, and VCL just could not stabilize in the early game. They were just picked apart despite their best efforts. Maybe could have gone for a tighter map where they could use their positions to a better advantage, maybe kick it to a longer game. But open maps, or at least semi-open map like we saw in our third one here, not the way to go. Kyo All Fallen, impressive by their ability at constantly nibbling at you until you fall apart.